Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Fair Director's Tour of Artist Room 2. My name is Nicole Garton, and I'm the Fair Director for the Other Art Fair Los Angeles. As part of the fair's virtual reality edition presented by Saatchi Art, we're thrilled to be presenting over 100 extremely talented emerging and independent artists from around the world, all eager to connect with you about their work. In navigating the fair's three-dimensional virtual environment, you'll be able to discover and learn more about artworks on view, request a video chat with any artist, save your favorites for easy reference, and make any purchases simply by clicking on the Buy This Artwork link that appears when you click on a particular artwork. That will take you to Saatchi Art's seamless and secure checkout process. If you have any questions about navigating the fair or making a purchase, please don't hesitate to reach out to us at the fair. Today, I'm very excited to introduce to you three exhibiting artists in room 2, Mary Lai, Jakob Gold, and Kirstine Anderson. All right, I'm going to navigate over to Mary's booth. So let's enter the fair. Here we go. Give it a second. So here we are inside room 2, and I'm just going to position ourselves so we can look at Mary's booth, which is right here. So right at the start, easy to find, and you can listen to Mary. But here we have her booth. And Mary, if you want to turn on your camera and join us, we'll get started. Hi, Mary.
Hi, Nicole. How are you?
Good to see you.
How are you?
So I wanted to kick things off by asking you to tell us a bit about your background and your journey to becoming the artist you are today.
Sure. From a young age, I always loved to draw, paint, and be creative. It was always just part of me. So naturally, I went to art school and I got a BFA in graphic design at Mason Gross School of the Arts at Rutgers University. And after college, I went to New York City. I had a whole career in accessory design for a decade, and I even had my own namesake handbag collection. Then I moved to Los Angeles, and that led to being an artist. And so I switched from being a designer to an artist, and that was kind of always my passion and dream. Even when I was designing in New York, I would be painting murals, creating artwork. So then finally, I kind of took that step. And so instead of just doing art on the side, now I'm full-time an artist and then designing on the side. So it's exactly kind of where I want to be.
Oh, that's so fantastic. I love to hear those stories where it's like finally getting to do exactly what you've always loved.
Yes,
And it's really exciting to see, we've been working with you for a few years now, showing at the LA Fair, and just seeing how your work has evolved and changed and you've been experimenting. It's really gratifying to see. So I wanted to ask you about this Black artwork with the alphabet and just see what inspired this, and did it kind of kick off a new series of works for you?
Yes. So my alphabet series, I showcased for the first time at the Other Art Fair Los Angeles for the fall in 2019. And it actually originally started because I was just doing it for my kids. My daughter was coming home from preschool and she would have these letters like A for apple or Z for zebra. And so we would just put them all up on our wall at home. And as I was looking at them one day, I decided I want to do my own alphabet series, but I'm going to use visual artists that I'm inspired by. So then I can teach her about these artists that I love through the letters that she's learning. So that's how it started. And when I showcased it at the Other Art Fair Los Angeles, I wasn't sure how people were going to react because they're just, it's alphabet, it's letters, but people thought it was so playful and fun. And it almost became like an interactive game where people would come to the booth and try to guess who each letter was and who each artist was. So it was really fun. And I had them displayed individually. And so they were like a low price point, and people ended up buying a bunch for gifts and for themselves. And so I didn't want to walk away from the letters, and I wanted to recreate a new version. So I created this 48 by 36 inch alphabet series, which has all the letters. And what it sparked for me to create this series is kind of the words that I could create with these letters, or positive quotes or phrases that resonates with people. So the letters are something special to me because it's the first thing I showed. So I kind of had to show it again.
Oh, I love that story. And it's such a great way of like connecting with your daughter. And then also for people who are maybe starting out in art history, like back to basics, you kind of reflect back on, okay, oh, there's a Mondrian or Magritte or, Liechtenstein. And it's fun for people who know, and then maybe you don't know who the other letters are. So it encourages people to kind of educate themselves.
For
That's
sure.
so fun. I love that. Um, so from your two-dimensional work, you quickly started to experiment with different textures and materials, including yarn. And I wondered if you could then, let's take a look at your other series that you have here. Um, I'm going to come back to these, but I wanted to talk about what you have here. These works, they're, well, you talk about them, you tell them how
Sure.
it's going on here.
So this series, the Bloom series with the flowers, I was kind of playing with a new technique. And so I was playing with yarn, and then I ended up using colored rope for them. I wanted to use flowers for the subject matter because I was doing a solo exhibition during the pandemic in 2020. So I wanted a subject matter that was perfect for the times. So I think a flower you can give in a celebration, but you can also give it to somebody when you're sending your condolences. And so it could be positive, but also there's kind of like maybe a mourning or loss to them. And I feel like flowers are just so beautiful. And so I created a whole series around it. And Bloom, this one is using the technique with colored rope. And I also painted the background. So it was something I was experimenting with. And I felt like it was a positive, vibrant image for tough times. So that's kind of what I wanted to find, the silver lining during something like a pandemic.
Gosh, it really speaks to both sides of the coin, as you're saying. And I think, it's such a signature Mary piece, but I think it's so topical as well. So it's interesting because when we're looking in your portfolio and seeing these, we can see like, oh, this is a natural progression, but it's also, in response to things that are going on in your life, but also affecting everyone. So yeah, I love the story behind these. They're so fun and really poignant as well.
Thank you.
Um, so your most recent series, and maybe you were working on these concurrently, but you have this abstract dancer series. And while certainly keeping your vibrant color palette in play, it seems like this is a new direction that's even more into abstract than what you had previously been doing. So I wanted to, let's turn this here. I wanted to have you tell us a bit about these. Let me step back here. You can get the full view. So yeah, tell us about this work. Is this the complete series or is it ongoing?
This is the complete series at the moment, but I'm really having a lot of fun with it. So might continue to develop more. Um, Abstract artwork has always been something that I was interested in, but I just didn't start there. But I always wanted to create it. And so finally, I created this series. And I first created the first one personally for myself, for my own house. And it was in more of a neutral color palette. And as I was looking at it, I thought if I use my vibrant colors and create a whole series, then maybe I can showcase it as a new direction. And so then I started making them. And what I loved about the abstract forms is that it doesn't specify like a specific person or race or gender, status, background. It's more of just like a form. And I like that like abstract art could be very mysterious or timeless. And so, these don't say anything specific, but for me, I feel like it's, these beautiful minimal shapes and forms that are dancing to the beat of their own drum. And it was quite liberating to make something just abstract. So I'm kind of having fun with this new direction.
Me too. I love these. Each one I look at, it's kind of like, which is my favorite color combination because there's such a strong resonance between, how whether they're complementary or, part of the same color family, but it's clear that your design and accessories background comes into play because it really reads, it's like, oh, I want to surround myself with these colors. Um, So how do your color choices and sort of the things you're considering when you're making a series like this, what are you thinking about? Do colors have certain symbolisms? Are you thinking about design trends? Where do you draw your inspiration in terms of like, oh, I want to work with this orange. This is, really speaking to me right now, or like this chartreuse one. I guess what inspires your color choices?
I think I just gravitate towards bright colors. And it's funny because when I had my handbag collection, I was doing a lot of black bags. But then when I crossed over to doing artwork, it's like these bright colors just made me feel good and happy. And when people see my artwork, I've been told it makes me feel happy. And so now I'm kind of sticking with these colors because I feel like that's what they know my artwork to be. And I think my accessories background does kind of play into my art practice, because the way I'm choosing it and creating it is lessons that I've learned when I'm creating and curating a collection of handbags. It's kind of all those same lessons of choosing choices of color and even composition. I lean into my graphic design background. And so between the graphic design and the accessories background and, my experience traveling to factories, working with different teams, and picking like leathers and different materials, I think those are all things that kind of reflect in this artistic practice that I'm doing now.
I love it. And I want to touch on, you mentioned how these are obviously genderless and sort of, you're evoking the human form, but it's kind of people can project onto it, themselves or other people. And I wonder, as you're making these works, or maybe as you've been showing them to people, what are you hoping that people walk away with from this series? Is there sort of a message that you're hoping to impart, or are you finding people are finding messages that you didn't anticipate they'd see?
Right. So for me, I hope that this kind of artwork um, is seeing beyond somebody's status, race, background, ethnicity. It's something where hopefully even in real life, we can all see beyond that, the outside, and see people for who they are. So these are kind of forms that, because they don't have a specific label, they can kind of interpret it the way they want to. And I hope they can just come away with it with a positive outlook. And if that's what resonates with them, then I'm happy.
I love that. Oh, well, this has been so much fun. And I really encourage everyone to come back and visit Mary's booth in real time. So thank you, Mary. Thank you for sharing all this insight into your work.
Thanks so much, Nicole.
Okay, now I'm going to navigate us. I'll go back to the entrance just so we can get in the habit of this. And then we're going to bring on Jacob. So give us a second here. So from here, it's really easy to search for the artist you're looking for. So I'm going to pull up Jacob from this list. And this will take us right there. Power walking the virtual away. All right, Jacob, do you want to bring yourself into the chat here? And in the meantime, I'll share a view of your booth. Hi, how are you?
Doing good. How are you?
Good to see you. Very fun. We haven't actually met in person yet, so this will have to tide us over until we come back to the real fairs. But I wanted to start by, can you tell us a bit about how you began as an artist and, what kind of piqued your interest in creativity?
Sure. I have always been interested in art, and art has always been a second nature for me. So from the young age, I used to like doing drawings and paintings, and I used to collect different pieces and make like a collage out of it. So and then I started, as I grew older, like I started visiting different museums, art shows, and I started to like. Learning and taking closer attention to the art and starting to do photography and experimenting with different techniques. So that's how I started painting.
Wow, so exciting. It just takes one moment to kind of kick off, a passion that becomes your life.
Yeah.
And you mentioned a bit of this photography and other things, but you're working across a variety of media in your work, including in these works here where, I think some of them have acrylic mixed with spray paint, some of them incorporate wax. Can you tell us a bit about your process and sort of what is driving your materials choices?
Yeah, I like when I start painting or when I start creating, like I never say like this is what I'm gonna end up with. And so for me is the texture and the color choices that I use. So I tend to work on a piece till I like the texture I get. So I uh, again, like if it's a dried paint or it's some recycled material, so I just use all sorts of materials to get the texture I like, and transfer some of the energy that I put into the piece.
I love it. You can definitely see a lot of the texture in this one. Is
Uh-huh.
this using a combination of, is this all layered acrylic or does this incorporate other materials?
What I did here, this is like I dried some of the paint and then I used that paint. I cut some of the pieces and I used here. When you like, it's like it has this 3D effect, but it's not that 3D, but it does have the 3D effect.
I love that, which is cool to think about in a virtual fair of like 3 dimensions on a flat plate. And
Thank
this one, yeah, this has a lot of great texture too.
Uh-huh. Here I use some of the, like I did use a lot of acrylic and spray paint, and I used like a rice paper, like a dried paper. I used on this one. So to again, all about the texture. I try to get the texture that I like and I'm happy with.
And how do you know when you've arrived? Because I'm looking at these, like this one definitely seems to have more of like the spray paint going on. But then where do you decide where the texture comes in?
Okay, so again, my inspiration comes from different places. So I like, one of the hobbies I have is just to sit in a car and just start driving and taking pictures of the street art, driving around LA or whatever city I'm in. So this is one of the pieces that I have created after, again, it's more of the street art. So I did use a lot of spray paint here uh, and use and acrylic and spray paint. That's where I got this texture and this painting from.
I love it. And I think even, when the materials and the composition and the different types of marks you're making, I think, and the color palette as well, you can see both, the abstract, expressionist, very gestural, action type painting, but then the street art comes through as well with obviously the spray paint, but then even the colors. Like to me, this piece and a little bit this one too, it kind of just this one feels very contemporary in the color palette, and this one does as well, but also with like the pastel neons from the 80s coming through, which is like such a golden age of street art. So I wonder, could you speak a bit about your influences, whether they're formal or informal, and then how does that translate into your color? And do you, when you're making these two works, for example, do you transition from one style of painting that you're going for and then like do something different, or are you kind of in the same mindset as you're working through?
No, no. There, for me, there is no right and wrong with colors. So I tend to use any color, whatever makes me like, whatever I feel and I'm in a state of mind. So I tend to use those colors, and if I can like translate my energy and just put the energy on the piece, so I use this color. So never go by the book and say this color doesn't go with this one or this one doesn't work with this one. So if it feels right, I tend to use those colors.
Love it. I'm just going to tab through so people can appreciate all the different, there's such a variety in terms of your energy, whether this one, feels very frenetic. You've got the cooler colors, but then these pops of pink and orange are really fun.
Thank you.
And then this one, the texture comes through so much more pronounced.
Yeah.
And you're incorporating a lot of black too. Yeah, I feel like yours are fun for people to kind of pick out, you know, which style they like best, because they're also different from each other, even though they're definitely working underneath your own brand.
So yeah, so depends whatever I'm going through and whatever the state of mind I'm in. So my pieces change.
Is there sort of like a color symbolism that you use? So if you're in a happier mood, do you tend to
I
favor
do, I
certain
do.
colors?
Yes, yes. When I'm sure you can tell. So whenever I use more darker colors, so I do, I tend to be more stressed probably at that time.
Okay.
So,
You do an all black painting, we'll send you something.
right, right. So you can tell by the color choices.
Very cool. And then I wanted to ask you, you have spoken about your work, you know, watching your father and his works and sort of working with collages early on. And I was wondering, do you see your paintings, do you sort of approach them through the lens of collage in the sense that, you know, layering is kind of the important thing as opposed to just the final image? The image is about the layers, or just how does the collage aspect come into it?
Yes,
And
I do. I do think that I do use lot of I do bring collage to my pieces because I think like having this texture and having different pieces come together and work together and become one piece at the end. So that that makes me happy and I feel good about using collage and I like working with different like different materials and bringing them together. Even sometimes they don't work together, but I try to bring them together.
What's some of the more unusual materials that you're using? Is there one here that has the wax in it or some other
I believe
unconventional?
so. This orange one, I believe here the orange and the black one, it does have the wax and the dried acrylic and the one next to it.
This one?
Yes,
Okay.
that one. So I did use the wax here and I used a I dried some of the acrylic and then I put on top of the wax and then I glue them together on this piece.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, all the more reason for people to come see us at the live fair so they can really zoom in. I'm always impressed at the level of detail through this view. And then when they click through to Saatchi art, you can really zoom in and, you know, get all kinds of different perspectives. But yeah, that's awesome. And then I guess to close, is there anything that you want people to understand about your work or walk away from when they see it?
Sure, I love them to come and see the works in person and then just transfer the energy and make just try to make them happy and yeah, that's if I can transfer some of energy and bring the joy to their homes and to their lives, I'm happy. That makes me happy.
That's a perfect way to end. I think really it's you know, when you're coming looking at all these artists' work, it's kind of like what resonates most with you, what do you love? And then, you know, it's a shared experience of the joy in creation and also in the joy in discovery. So this was wonderful. Thank you so much, Jakob. Really, really fun to hear from you.
Thank you. Awesome. Thank you so much.